Ready Row USA. I'm Charlotte Pierce, the producer. We are a podcast of the Rowing Chat Network, International Network. And today we're going to be talking with coastal aficionados Mark Wilson of All-American Rowing Camp in Florida and Ryan Worth, who coaches at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having us, Charlotte.
You're welcome. I'm excited to hear about this. And I tried coastal rowing in September up here in Westport, Mass. But I'm sure there is a lot more to learn. Anyway, we are, like I said, I'm the producer. In the booth, we have Shannon Borum, who's our assistant producer and is down there in Hampton High School in Henry County, Georgia, starting the only public school rowing program in the state of Georgia. There are private clubs, of course, very nice ones, but she's working with these high school kids and is doing a fantastic job. Thank you, Shannon, for helping us out. And like I said, we'll introduce Mark and Ryan, and Tara Morgan is also a correspondent. We were all recently at the USRowing convention in Philadelphia and doing fun stuff, which more of that will be coming on the blog at rowing.chat. And Brenda Ballinger was on with us. We also interviewed Reba Knickerbocker of Bend the Blade, and Allison Polini does an occasional production for us too. So these are our fabulous correspondents. We appreciate you. You can subscribe at rowing.chat to receive notifications of upcoming shows and send in news tips and get all our show notes. If you hear something on the show today that you forgot or didn't write down, just go to the show notes and it'll all be there. We do a pretty good job of getting all our complete links up. So sorry, did somebody call? Oh, we wanted to say a word about our fabulous sponsors who make it possible for us to produce this podcast, pay the internet bills and all that stuff. Our executive producer, Rebecca Caro of Rowing Chat, did a great guide to rowing gloves, and I think the Crew Stop rowing gloves, which I have, are in that, and a couple other brands. Those are great stocking stuffers if you're still looking for rowing gifts. You can find the full list at rowing.chat/sponsors, and that link will be there, and you can just go in and read all about them. We also have a new sponsor, Rowing Related. It's a independent journalism about rowing, and we know you can never get enough information about rowing. So please go on rowing.chat/sponsors, and you can find a link to a subscription discount for this wonderful newsletter. And his free introductory article is "The Future of Rowing at the Olympics: How Rowing Should Adapt to Stay Relevant and Grow Its Base." So that's a topic that we talked a lot about at the convention as well. And I'm sure Ryan and Mark have some thoughts about it. We also have a sponsor, great rowing seat, which I think you can use it in the boat as well as the erg, but I think our executive producer tried it in the erg and was really impressed with it. It eliminates the sore butt. Hopefully will eliminate the sore butt phenomenon. Danish international lightweight Eskild Ebbesen helped develop this when he lost feeling in his legs during long erg sessions. So I'm not sure if I row as long as he does, but
Probably not.
Probably not. He looks like he's pretty competent. Anyway, thank you, Eskild, for developing this wonderful seat. Sidious Remex, again, rowing.chat/sponsors is the link where you can find all the information and discounts about our sponsors. And now I'll turn it over to Mark and Ryan, and I'll bow out until we do the outro, and you guys take it away about coastal rowing in Portugal.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Charlotte. This is Mark Wilson, and I'm really happy to be sitting here with Ryan Worth about, what are you, 750 miles north of me, Ryan, or is it even that far?
Right.
All right. Okay.
35 degrees colder, but
it's
we got
almost
snow last night, so schools ran on a delay this morning.
Oh, excellent. Well, we had it was down to about 70 last night, and it's going to be about 78 here today, down from 82 yesterday. So if you want to come down to Florida in the winter time, as it's getting colder up there, reach out, give us a call. We're happy to have you join us here in the great state of Florida for some winter training. And that happens to be where the Sarasota International Coastal Race was just last month, the end of last month, which Ryan had the opportunity to participate in, and not only participate, but actually do pretty well. Ryan, why don't you give us a little overview of this coastal race that you participated in?
Yeah, exactly, Mark. You got it. That was a big draw. It was, coming out of head race season, for a lot of us, it's hard to think about adding a race, but when you think about adding a race on a beach in Florida, it's an easier sell for sure. So that was a big component. I went down actually with 5 of my college kids, and we raced in the adult class, singles and doubles. And I actually did win the single, which I didn't plan on doing. And then doubled up into a double with one of my freshmen, and we finished second in that behind the Ukrainian guys. So from a result standpoint, it was a great trip, but results aside, it was a really good event.
So Ryan, tell us. I know there's a lot of people out there, and we on this podcast have talked over the last year or so quite a bit about coastal. We're bringing coastal rowing to the United States. It's already been pretty firmly established throughout most of the rest of the rowing world, Europe especially. What's the biggest difference, in your opinion, as far as the racing goes, between a coastal race and a standard flatwater sprint race? Don't worry about the head racing right now.
From the racing standpoint, I think one of the biggest pieces is the start and finish, which I think we're going to revisit that in a second, because you don't line up in the stake boats and you don't row down a straight line of buoys. But another big component is the maneuvering of the boat. In a good 2K or 1K race, you really don't end up turning almost at all. It just kind of, you find
that's the goal, right? Not to turn in a 2,000 meter or a 1,000 meter sprint race.
Yeah. And not even to really be making much of a course correction really at any point, right? But in coastal, you're making greater than 90-degree turns around buoys at multiple points of the course. And the coastal boats are designed not only to handle surf and different wave conditions or wind conditions better than a flatwater boat will, but they also turn really quite well. So if people have raced a stake turn regatta, like the Red Bull up in Boston or something like that, that like turning these fine racing shells that are meant to go straight is really a lot. But if you're going full bore in a double or a single and you just check it down hard on that inside, they'll turn pretty tight. And that's a big component of the race. You can see on the screen, that's a screenshot actually from the first buoy turn in the men's and women's single event at Sarasota.
So, and I'm seeing that these boats are awfully close together, and there doesn't seem to be a judge referee yelling at you with a white flag telling you to move away from each other. What's the deal with that?
They're right there, making sure that safety is maintained and no one is intentionally causing collisions. But in the rules of coastal racing, touching oars or touching boats is not prohibited. And it's kind of expected. A lot of if people have done any dinghy racing or even small keelboat racing in sailing, they're going to be a little more comfortable with the way that kind of plays out.
Well, it looks like you have to. I mean, obviously, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So you're trying to get to that inside of that buoy. And if you're on the outside of the buoy on a 90-degree corner, obviously you're going farther, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you'll give a lot of ground there. And so actually, like the first buoy, I'm looking at that picture. I was pretty slow off the beach, actually. I had to move out of somebody's way because
Hold on. What do you mean you were on? Well, hold on. Just a second. I'm sorry to interrupt, but what do you mean you're on the beach?
Yeah, so we're jumping right in talking about the starts here. So Sarasota ran a beach sprint start, and a lot of events are going to run a beach sprint start. So
what are you doing?
One member of the crew, and sometimes the format could be all members of the crew, start outside the boat. But so in the single, someone is tending your boat. It's sitting in the water, just into the water. You don't have to swim to it, but you're behind a line on the beach. And so when the flag drops, you're running to get into your boat, and it's all on the clock.
Wow.
Yeah. And
so you have to be a track athlete as well as a rowing athlete.
Well, you do have to have that component. It borrows a lot from the lifeguard games, that idea of getting to your vessel, getting in it and going. You don't have to carry it to the water, put your oars in, but you do have to jump in and go. And so an amateur like me didn't have it's just a strap really that goes over your bare feet in the type of foot stretcher I have. I just didn't have it loose enough. So I couldn't get my feet in. And I just went ahead and took a second. I figured I would save myself some time. So I ended up pretty slow going into the first buoy, and I was passing a couple people. And so I took the first turn a little wide on purpose, just so that I didn't have to wait on others to round the buoy. And there's head racing, we talk about stuff like that a lot, picking the shortest course, knowing when to go fast or slow. Did I make the right call or not? I don't know. I think I'm going to have to practice coastal racing a lot more before I figure out what would have been the right call there.
And I think that's part of it, right? I mean, the coastal rowing, it is still rowing, but the techniques are going to be a little bit different. Obviously, we've talked about the equipment being a little bit different, and then the being able to maneuver the boat really pretty precisely in these varying conditions that you alluded to. So, what were the conditions like at the Sarasota Coastal Race?
Yeah, they were not super big wave wise. We had some breeze. It was bumpy, but it was a good regatta, I think, for what it was, because a lot of the competitors are not very well versed in the coastal, and I think it would have been maybe too much of a challenge to race in some of the conditions that, as the sport grows, that we're going to see as commonplace.
Right, because really the coastal rowing is designed to be in the ocean, right? I mean, or big lakes or offshore, right?
And it take a lot of sea state to really blow a race out, from that standpoint. And, one of the things they have in Sarasota at Lido is that depending on the wind direction and wave direction, they could have just moved the course. You're just dropping 6 different buoys, and they have a south-facing peninsula there, so they can race in any cardinal direction other than north off of that venue.
That's great. Hey, we've got a question in from a listener. We appreciate everybody that's out there listening. The question is coastal boats seem bigger, and I know that they're heavier, but are they more expensive? And you happen to work for one of the builders of one of the world's largest coastal boat builders. So what's the cost of these things?
Yeah, so I mean, for Swift, the singles brand new are only $4,000. So the answer to the question is actually they're a little less. The Cox quads brand new are about $12,500, so under $13,000 for a brand new quad. There are bigger boats, but one of the things with the little higher weight classes that FISA is setting is that you don't have to use carbon fiber in the construction. You can use marine plywood and fiberglass and still end up underweight. So
okay, so that's great to know, and that because of that composite material or the fiberglass material that they're being used, they're pretty tough. So the idea of what you just talked about, running into each other or potentially running into each other, is going to keep your boat solid, not going to create damage to the point where it's going to become unsafe to row in. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I have an old coastal single from Leo, and it actually took a tire tread to the deck on the way down to the regatta, and I just a lot of electrical tape and it went out and raced. But that is another big advantage of these boats, is that they are going to maintain a high level of race quality through a lot of wear and tear. And, another thing is that if people want to build one that's super, super light and have it as a really enjoyable boat for calmer conditions, that's great. And then you can add weight to it. And you don't want a super light boat for rowing in big surf, because you just get kicked around so much. You want your vessel to have a little of its own weight.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Tell me about the finish, and then we're going to move on to a couple new exciting things that are going on in the sport internationally. But tell me about the finish.
Yeah, so in the beach sprint format, and we do have to say, Mark, the other format would be floating starts and finishes. There's 2 buoys marking a start line, finish line. You can't go over it until the whistle blows, but no one's holding the boats or anything. But in the beach sprint format is that the start line and finish line are up the beach. So one of the other things that you're going to run into in a coastal race is the beach. As you finish, you're going to drive your bow into it. You're going to jump out of your boat and run to the finish line. And so that's what the finish there looked like.
Cool. Well, that's pretty exciting, I guess. And I mean, does he get hurt? Anybody have any problems or anything getting out of the boats as you're
Yeah, especially watching the high schoolers in the quads in the afternoon, they were getting to the point where, and it was actually one of the kids did a good job. He turned around in his seat, stood up on the bow deck, and just as the boat was hitting the beach, he jumped and made a great exit right on up. If you don't execute that well, you're getting run over by the boat. And
that
so
could hurt.
there are going to be, safety concerns from just a competitor standpoint. You got to be smart about how this is all happening. But from an officiating standpoint, some of this is going to get sussed out along the way. There are, just like in any sport, there are things that could be hazardous, and we've got to be safe and kind of learn how to operate within that.
Right. Hey, another question just popped up on our screen. Where are the World Rowing Coastal Championships in 2020? And I just happen to know the answer to that because I was just in a country, and it happens to be in Portugal. And the World Rowing Coastal Championships are going to be in a little town just to the west of Lisbon. So people would want to fly into Lisbon. And the name of the town is Arias. So I hope I'm saying that right, but Arias. Portugal is just west of Lisbon, and that's where the Worlds are going to be in 2020. So that's pretty exciting. So, and then we've got other international coastal news. You want to talk about that real quick?
The FISA and IOC actually just this weekend released a new press release announcing that in 2022, coastal rowing will officially be an event at the Youth Olympics. And so if you've got a youth rower born in 2004, 2005, that's going to be the age range for competitors at the 2022 Youth Olympics. They're going to have the men's and women's singles, and then they're going to have men's, women's, and mixed doubles. I think they've got 120 spots set aside for youth to go race, and that's going to be in Senegal.
Senegal.
Yeah.
Coast of Africa.
Yep.
Holy cow. So this is an international sport. It really, truly is an international sport. And I think that's one of the big things, one of the big draws for for FISA and the International Olympic Committee is to try to increase awareness and increase participation out of the normal kind of the primary European countries, US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand as kind of the dominant fine boat or sprint classes, right? So we're seeing the opportunity for more people to get involved with the sport around the world.
Absolutely, and in a lot of different ways. If anybody happened to be listening about a month ago when we talked to Ben Booth and Michael Knowles, and follow Bermuda Scullers, the Bahamas Scullers Club, they finished building and they've been rowing and launching in their coastal singles that they built down there at the club in Exuma, Bahamas. And so that's a fun Instagram to follow along and just kind of see how that's a place where there is absolutely no flat water for them to be training on and learning about the sport. But they've got all these youth and adults that are highly involved in sailing, and this is a great way to bring them into rowing. So
after the World Youth Olympics or the Youth Olympics in 2022, what's coming next? I think we've got something called the regular or normal Olympics in 2024 in Paris. What's going to happen with coastal rowing there?
That's going to be an interesting conversation here in the 2020 Olympics at Tokyo. The IOC, the International Olympic Committee, and FISA are in conversations over when we're going to see coastal rowing rolling into the Olympic format and in what way. It's an undeniable fact that rowing can be a little boring to the spectator. And with a limited number of athlete spots available at the Village and inside the Olympics and other sports growing really fast, rowing's getting squeezed a little bit. And so you have to be honest that there's a little bit of a pressure to stay relevant. And we're going to see coastal rolling into the Olympic format. There's been no official statement, but 2024, probably 2028 at the latest.
I think actually maybe yesterday even or the day before, we did get word that it is going to be in the as an exhibition sport in 2024 in Paris and an official sport in 2028 in LA. I think that is now out. So if it's not out officially, I think it will be out very soon.
That's how it feels. Yeah.
We've got some good inside track knowledge on this. So I think we'll be looking at that. So which means in the US, we've got to find a team, right? And obviously in coastal rowing, it is a little bit different sport than our regular rowing. So we're going to be looking as a country, as an organization within US Rowing, is going to be looking for athletes that are wanting to get into this sport. And it's probably going to come partly from inside the sport of rowing, but I know US Rowing would really like to see new athletes being generated from outside of our current quote unquote athlete base. So if you've got friends out there that, are CrossFitters or maybe erg fans or just weightlifting types, the coastal boat can certainly be something that doesn't take quite as much fine technique. There is certainly technique, as Ryan alluded to, but I think the idea of getting into a boat that maybe is a little more stable and a little easier to row on flat water, and then you take it into the rougher water, could be a lot of fun for a lot of people. So
and race distance. You have to mention, like rowing is such a tall person's power sport, because that's the body type that really moves a boat over 2K. But the coastal regattas, there's a lot of agility and they're a little longer. Even a beach sprint format race, it's not just 6.5 minutes. So we're going to see people who are maybe not quite elite caliber for flat water rowing who are going to be able to break into the sport as coastal competitors.
Sure. Okay. Well, speaking of Portugal, let's move on out of coastal rowing and go into the Portugal bit. I happened to take a group to Portugal back in early November, just before the Coastal Championships, and we had an absolute great time. So it was kind of one of these places where you read about and hear about, and it turned out to meet all of our expectations. So the trip was fantastic. I had 8 rowers go over with me to this little town of Avis, which is about 90 minutes to almost 2 hours inland from Lisbon. We flew into Lisbon and went to the training center and then got to tour around central Portugal. We went to some Roman ruins, and this is what's really cool about rowing in Europe is the ability not only to row, because rowing is rowing, but seeing and living and exploring some new parts of the country or the world is really what rowing is all about in a foreign country. So if you go to a camp or go on a tour, make sure you're asking the tour leader about what else is going on, whether or not you're going to be rowing a lot or some or enough. And that's really based upon your desires as a traveler who wants to go to Europe and take in one of the camps. This location that we went to is a world-renowned training center for many of the European and Northern European teams. So the location absolutely knew how to treat us as athletes and as rowing travelers, and the food was amazing. The little picture that you might see there, sorry, I just started talking about the food as the screen shot away, but it's these little custard filled treats that are absolutely amazing. We had those every morning for breakfast, along with some other healthy things like scrambled eggs and croissants and all sorts of great things. So the food was amazing. The rowing was great. And then, again, ancient ruins that we're rowing literally beside, and then some wine at the end of the day. It doesn't get much better than that. So if you're interested in going to Portugal or to another European destination with me and my partner, Jim Dietz, feel free to contact us. We're going to be returning the first week of May for a true training camp. And that training camp is going to be designed to be just like the European or US kind of training camp, where we're going to row a technically hard row in the morning, first off, after a first breakfast. Then we're going to come back, have a second breakfast, which we all love. Everybody loves second breakfast. And then a strength training session in the weight room. And then some discussion about training methodology, nutrition for the aging athlete, all sorts of interesting things like that, some yoga and stuff. And then some touring in the early afternoon after a little nap. And then we come back for an evening or late afternoon distance row, steady state, technically working on catch, finish, transitions, and things like that. And we're going to do that for 5 days in first week of May. And so anybody out there this sounds good, just check us out on allamericanrowingcamp.com.
And that does sound like a blast. You forgot lunch and dinner though on your itinerary, Mark.
We do have lunch and dinner, so 3 great meals. It'll be fine. And the wine comes only after the last row. So unless you don't do the last row and you want to have wine come in a little earlier, but we'll have some wine along on that trip too. And Portugal is obviously famous for their wine as well as their cork industry. And that's something else that we'll take into tour as a part of the touring, is seeing how cork is actually harvested, and then also how that cork, which is obviously the bark of the tree, is turned into corks that we put into wines and produce all sorts of other interesting things around the world that we use cork for. So pretty great trip. And I want to say, I'm just going to send it out and with a little shout out to our executive producer who just popped on the screen here, Charlotte Pierce. She is a woman who wears many, many hats, and we all know that she is putting an awful lot of effort into our little show. So we appreciate you guys out there listening and watching and supporting, and do know that there's an awful lot of work behind the scenes that Charlotte puts into this, and we as the correspondents appreciate her doing that. Also, really quick to just wish everybody a very happy holidays as we're moving into our Christmas, Hanukkah, Yom Kippur, Kwanzaa, Festivus season. We're happy that we're all here together and enjoying the time, sometimes off the water and sometimes on the erg. But again, if you want to come and be on the water, just join us down in Florida. So with that, I'm signing out. Charlotte.
Awesome. Thank you guys. You're the best. You put up with me. So I appreciate that. Sometimes it gets a little hairy around here getting this stuff ready for the show, but you're real troopers, both you and Ryan. And Allison, I'd like to shout out to Shannon Borum in Georgia, who's been doing a fabulous job just basically organizing my brain around this show. So I just wanted to mention a few things as we close out. We want to hear about your rowing club. We want to know the little tiny details about what's going on. Like if you've hired somebody, or you're building a new, you put up a new rack, or you found some wonderful way to attract members. We have a rowing club news form that we'll link to in the show notes. And we really want to hear, it doesn't matter how small your club is or how big, or, if you're one of those posh ones where you have blazers, or just a modest little wet launching club. We want to hear from you. So please do that. We also have a gadgets and gear and gifts form, and we're getting some amazing tips and tricks and hacks. And I know Mark and Ryan have sent in some, and we'd like to reactivate that because we're running out of the ones that have been posted so far. We just did our gadgets, gear, and gifts podcast earlier in November. So you can go back to the Rowing Chat site and listen to that. We also have all the links to the products that we featured, including NK's Empower Orlock. They had a Black Friday special at $100 off of that, or $200 maybe. Again, our Rowing Chat sponsors, rowing.chat is the URL. It's one of those new URLs, and the sponsors are all listed there, and we are happy to have them. They make it possible for us to go on. Our episode hashtag is RRUSA Portugal. So if you use that on social media, and we'll track you down and give you some wonderful swag. Here it is. At the convention, we got this Fulham Reach Boat Club wonderful vest.
Wow.
It's an incredible program for prison inmates in the UK, and I made it home with that because we weren't able to give away all our stuff. So if someone uses that, you can have this. It's a small, I guess it's men's unisex small, and Fulham Reach.
That won't fit me, Charlotte.
But I don't think so.
That's not going to fit me. I'm trying to lose some weight, but
you could put it over one arm, maybe.
maybe.
Yeah. Give it to Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah, he won't fit it either.
No. Don't tell me he grew.
No. Fulham Beach is a really cool club. That's only a 5-year-old club. It's worth checking out if you're in London or if you're just interested in seeing what other people are doing.
Steve
and
O'Connor,
their inner city outreach and everything.
Yeah, they are amazing. And Imogene Walsh, I also know her. She works there, and we'll have an interview with Steve O'Connor on the blog in here in a little bit. We recorded it during the convention. But my company is Pierce Press. I'm always looking for interesting alternative education and coaching book topics. Got a couple of things cooking on the coaching front, but I know that people out there don't die with a book in you. That's my motto. Along with collaboration isn't a new competition. So I do collaborate with my authors. You have a lot of say in what goes into the book and how it comes out. We talked a lot about Mark Wilson's All-American Rowing Camp, but I am going there in December, and I'm so thrilled. I get to do 2 sessions and with him and Jim Dietz, and hopefully make some progress in my rowing. Who knows? It's a work in progress. But I did get the alligator experience last time. That was fun. You do get to see some interesting wildlife there, and they don't attack you, so don't worry about it. We are also grateful to Ryan, UTC Rowing, Chattanooga, and where Lookout Rowing Club is also located there. We have, a whole roster of new episodes scheduled, including some Junior Olympics previews, some more Olympic previews. We have a books show about rowing books, and those are all coming up. You can tune in or visit our website for the full list. The show notes will also have those in on a regular basis. And thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are out of time, but there's so much more to say.
Next week, next time.
So much more to do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everyone out there in the internet world or on your podcast listening, we appreciate you very much. And tell your friends, tell your club mates, and if you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out to us at any time. We appreciate the feedback, obviously, and